The National Desk, America's News, now.
Yeah, so I got here around like 4 in the morning, expecting to take my flight to San Diego to visit my child. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to due to the system delay or crash. I don't know what it is.
Global computer outages knock out more than just thousands of flights. Just how widespread was the resulting damage?
There are folks still saying he is not strong enough or capable enough to be our next president. I disagree.
Are rumors of Biden's campaign demise exaggerated? What the president's team is saying about his plans to return to the campaign trail. Then, reporter Evan Gershkovich learns his fate on espionage charges as he remains detained in Russia, what the United States says about getting him back home. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. We continue to track the major disruptions caused by a massive Microsoft IT outage as industries across the board, from airlines to banking to healthcare, work to recover from a faulty software update that knocked out critical systems. Microsoft says it has fixed the issues, but problems do persist. And taking a look at where things stand right now in healthcare, providers are still responding to the outage that began overnight at 12 major hospitals in multiple states, from Kentucky to Massachusetts. Visits were canceled, including elective procedures and surgeries. In Oregon, Arizona, Alaska, New Hampshire, and Ohio, 911 services, emergency services are being restored after their lines went down. And the outage also wreaking major havoc on transportation. Flights worldwide getting delayed. Tonight, we are tracking more than 9,000 delays in, around, and out of the United States, and over 2,600 flight cancellations. Earlier today, several carriers issued ground stops on their flights due to communication problems. Those have since been lifted. And tonight we are also hearing from CrowdStrike. That's the cybersecurity company that engaged in a faulty software update that impacted its Windows clients. The company made clear that this was not a cybersecurity attack and said they understood the gravity of the situation and were deeply sorry for the inconvenience. The extensive damage tonight inciting concerns over the vulnerability of a digitized world heavily dependent on just a handful of providers. Republicans officially have their presidential nominee set as questions remain on the Democratic side. More worried Democrats want the president to end his bid for a second term. As national correspondent Matt Gelka tells us, with every new call for the president to step aside, his team publicly digs in.
A flood of bad headlines have all painted the same picture. President Joe Biden might be close to calling it quits on his re-election bid. But with each new headline, another message from the Biden campaign. He's staying in.
Absolutely, the president's in this race. You've heard him say that time and time again. I'm not here to say that this hasn't been a tough several weeks for the campaign. There's no doubt that it has been. And we've definitely seen some slippage in support, but it has been a small movement.
More congressional Democrats called for the president to step aside Friday, and other big names in the party, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer have all reportedly brought their concerns directly to Biden. Jeffries said Friday, though, he was still backing the president.
President Biden, as I've said repeatedly, is our nominee. He has a tremendous track record of success. He's one of the most accomplished American presidents in our history, and he has the vision, I believe, the ability, the capacity, and the track record to make a case to the American people that will result in us being successful in November.
Biden also has another ally, outspoken New York progressive Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
People underestimate Biden's performance. I think that is how he became president, is through a lot of people underestimating his performance.
Biden released a statement after Donald Trump's Republican nomination speech, saying in part he was looking forward to getting back on the campaign trail next week. Next week is also a big week politically for President Biden, as he's expected to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, while the cloud of uncertainty about his political future likely hangs over that meeting. For the National Desk in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
Matt, thank you. In Chicago, police are investigating who killed a female postal worker delivering mail to different homes today in Chicago. According to authorities, a male walked up to the mail carrier and shot multiple times before driving off in a vehicle. The United States Postal Inspection Service is now offering up to $250,000 for information leading to an arrest and conviction. Today, the man who was shot to death at former President Trump's rally last Saturday, Corey Compertor, was laid to rest. Hundreds of people in Pennsylvania joined a procession to honor the 50-year-old father and longtime firefighter. Compertor died protecting his wife and daughters when the gunman fired several shots, gravely wounding two other attendees and striking Trump in the ear. Trump held a moment of silence for Compertor at the RNC last night, but was not able to attend the funeral due to Secret Service concerns. Labor and delivery services at Grove Hill Memorial Hospital in southern Alabama are set to close down next month. The decision was made to secure much needed federal funding for the hospital to stay open. But to qualify for the grants, the hospital needs fewer than 50 beds that provide emergency access, but no inpatient care, including obstetrics. This will be the fourth labor and delivery medical facility to close in Alabama in just the past year. Retailers from Maine to Texas, as well as shipping companies, are bracing for potential port strikes. The current contract is set to end on September 30th, and if no deal is made, a strike could happen as early as October 1st. Now, the current contract governs more than 14,000 workers on both the East and Gulf coasts. The International Longshoremen's Association president saying that they will not consider extending the current contract or accept outside interference from the Biden administration or the Department of Labor. The National Retail Federation's vice president for supply chain and customs policy says retailers have already taken steps to mitigate any disruption. And tonight, troubling accusations of ongoing sex crimes against the Southwest Key migrant facilities that house children who have come across the border. Southwest Key operates 29 migrant shelters, 17 in Texas, 10 in Arizona, 2 in California. The National Desk's Andrew Freeman joins us from Austin with more.
For 20 years, Southwest Key has sheltered migrant children who have come to the United States alone and helped reunite them with family or a guardian. Funded with grants from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, it has 29 child migrant shelters with 17 here in Texas. In total, they can accommodate more than 6,000 children.
They've got no social base, no one in the United States to protect them, and the only one that is supposed to is the government, and they failed in doing that.
The Department of Justice alleges some employees, even supervisors, have engaged in rape, unwanted touching, and the solicitation of sex and nude images of those children since at least 2015, with some victims as young as 5. In one instance out of El Paso, an 8-year-old reported a youth care worker, quote, repeatedly entered their bedroom in the middle of the night to touch their private area, and he threatened to kill their families if they disclosed the abuse. Immigration and federal litigation attorney George Lobb calls it a, quote, disgusting result of putting profits over people.
If you properly train staff, screen them, and do ratios, you will eliminate a lot of these issues and reduce suffering.
The lawsuit says the children were threatened with violence against them and their families to ensure their silence. And in some cases, Southwest Key was even aware of the abuse but didn't report it. The DOJ alleges Southwest Key failed to take appropriate actions to protect the children in their care, a violation of the Fair Housing Act.
If you have an FHA grant or you're operating an FHA facility, you have to comply with all federal law, including you can't discriminate. And part of sex discrimination is sexual harassment.
In a statement to CBS Austin Thursday, Southwest Keys says in part, the program's primary focus is the safety, health, and well-being of each one of the children and youth we care for. We continue to review the complaint, and it does not present the accurate picture of the care and commitment our employees provide to the youth and children. The DOJ is asking for an immediate stop to these discriminatory practices and action to prevent future abuse, reparations for the victims, and civil penalties against Southwest Key.
Coming up, how many years American journalist Evan Gershkovich now faces in a Russian prison, and the latest on efforts to bring him home. Then an update on Mideast ceasefire negotiations and what we know about a possible attack at a U.S. embassy office. And later, complaints of social media-related identity theft are only on the rise. The actions that platforms are taking right now to protect their users. We're back in just 90 seconds. Right now, parts of Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, and also some nearby states are at risk for severe thunderstorms. Wind gusts topping 70 miles an hour possible tonight across portions of the Great Plains. And through the weekend, widespread rainfall totals could reach 1 to 3 inches across the South. Major threats of thunderstorms also bring the possibility of quarter-sized hail as well as dangerous wind gusts. The Republican National Convention is wrapped up in Milwaukee. Former President Donald Trump closing out the week with a highly anticipated speech just days after he survived that assassination attempt. National correspondent Atrel Nashar has the highlights and a look at where the new Trump-Vance ticket goes from here.
A newly re-energized Republican Party hearing from their nominee in a speech the campaign hoped would deliver a message of unity to the point of winning over undecided voters. Trump supporters, at least, feeling more unified than ever, grateful their nominee is still alive.
I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here.
It was a different, calmer side of Trump at first. In an off-the-cuff comment, Trump at one point broke with a plan to not say President Biden's name at all.
If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, added them up, they will not have done the damage that Biden has done. Only going to use the term once.
By the end of the night, appearing more like the Trump firebrand that inspires loyalty within his base.
The greatest invasion in history is taking place right here in our country. They're coming from mental institutions and insane asylums.
Trump and his supporters relishing in a remarkable streak of good luck. Not only did Trump survive that shooting, but a federal judge dismissed special counsel Jack Smith's classified documents case, which Smith is appealing, and his opponent is swamped with calls from Democrats to leave the race. With the campaign behind them, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are hitting the campaign trail right away with their first joint rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan on Saturday. That will be held in an indoor arena. Then Vance heads to his hometown of Middletown, Ohio, for a speech on Monday.
Greetings, Milwaukee.
The Trump campaign plans to deploy 39-year-old J.D. Vance to Rust Belt swing states to sell Trump to undecided voters in his more measured style.
I think we've got to go save this country. I think you're the guy who can help me in the best way. You can help me govern. You can help me win. You can help me in some of these Midwestern states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and so forth.
A big unknown at this point is what a vice presidential debate will look like. Both Vance and Vice President Harris agree they should debate, but the Trump campaign refuses to agree to a date until after the Democratic National Convention. Because despite President Biden's insistence he's staying in the race, the Trump camp says the Democrats still don't know who they're nominating. In Milwaukee, I'm Audra Nishar reporting.
Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich has been sentenced to 16 years in a Russian prison. Gershkovich has been convicted on espionage, with Russian prosecutors accusing him of gathering secret information for the CIA. The 32-year-old has been in a Russian jail since last March. It was largely expected that the Russian court would find him guilty, as has been the case with other Americans facing charges there. The Wall Street Journal and the U.S. government have called it a sham trial. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, speaking at the Aspen Security Forum, having this to say.
When it comes to Evan, when it comes to Paul Whelan in Russia, other Americans, we're working it quite literally every day, looking to see what we can do to get them home.
Russia has said it is open to a prisoner swap, though that could take months or even years. Israel is considering retaliatory strikes against Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen after a Houthi drone killed at least one and wounded 10 others in Tel Aviv. This, according to new reports out of Israel. The drone struck a house just 1 block from the U.S. Embassy branch office, which Israel believes was the actual target. Israel's military says it detected the drone, but it was not shot down due to human error. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Antony Blinken saying negotiations on a possible ceasefire are ongoing and getting closer to the end.
I believe we're inside the 10-yard line and driving toward the goal line and getting an agreement that would produce a ceasefire, get the hostages home, and put us on a better track to trying to build lasting peace and stability.
Amazon Prime Day spending, it has reached a record. This Tuesday and Wednesday, people spent $14.2 billion on the annual sale event. That's up by 11%, by the way, from last year, according to Adobe Analytics. The most popular categories were school supplies, electronics, and small kitchen appliances. Amazon says millions of people joined Prime in the weeks before the event. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America.
Dozens of Horry County community members showed up to Broadway at the beach Saturday to march for babies.
We come out today to celebrate because we're fighting for the health of moms and babies.
March for Dimes was founded in 1938 with the mission to improve mom and baby health across the U.S. through research, advocacy, and education. Conway couple Janisha and Jerry Johnson are this year's ambassador family. Their son, Jerry III, or Wormy, was born weighing 1 pound and 4 ounces.
So we are walking just for families who can't walk, who may have lost their children or still in the NICU. And so we want to walk for them because our child is a miracle, and we're just believing for other families that they'll have the same miracle.
The Johnsons say you would never know their son struggled to stay alive in the NICU for more than 4 months. The family cheered as Jerry III crossed the finish line with his parents, marking another momentous moment for the Johnsons.
Wednesday around 3:30 in the morning, owners of Majesty Bible and Gifts were startled when their alarm system started going off. Someone had broken into their Bible store.
This has never happened. We've been open for 34 years, and this is the first time this has ever happened. So, there's something to celebrate about that.
As you could see in the security camera footage, the burglar broke through a window on the side of the store. They immediately walked over to the jewelry display and broke the glass with what looks like a mallet. They took all the jewelry they could grab and left.
You don't ever expect that kind of thing to happen. You hear about it, but it's different when it's, your store.
Cullen says the burglars stole $4,000 worth of rings, over $5,000 in necklaces and bracelets, and causing over $1,000 in display damage.
Saigon Deli in the Chinatown International District is facing a graffiti problem.
The city, they want us to clean up all the graffiti on the building.
Kwok Dang, the owner of the business, says this letter was posted on their door by Seattle Public Utilities, stating that his business is a potential graffiti nuisance property based on the persistent graffiti on the building. And if he doesn't clean it up, he will be fined $100 a day or up to $5,000. But Dang tells me it's a cycle that seems never ending.
Sometimes every day, sometimes every week. We don't know, because we out of control. They do at night time, even on the daytime. We see it, we can do nothing.
Vandalism has been a constant problem in this area, which is why so many businesses have closed.
And I am very happy that this business has stayed here and seeing that, change over so many businesses that can't afford to continue staying here, and the violence and different things along the street that have happened.
Coming up, the threat of your social media accounts being taken over by hackers is getting worse. What some say needs to be done to hold criminals and platforms accountable. Having your account spoofed or hijacked on social media can quickly turn into a nightmare. Spotlight on America discovered a sharp increase in complaints of social media-related identity theft. And what's worse, national investigative correspondent Angie Moreski tells us all too often, social media companies do very little to help their own users who've been hacked.
California mom Sonia Gomez was the victim of a Facebook takeover.
They had sent me something like at 2 in the morning saying that there was a login in Hong Kong.
Within hours, hackers falsely posted she had a new job at crypto.com and was helping people make big money.
Every time I would report it, they would respond like, they don't see nothing wrong with this page.
It turned into a several-month ordeal to regain control of her own page.
Facebook will do absolutely nothing about it. Look at this.
Scott Vreeland of Georgia also says Facebook wouldn't help him when his deceased brother's account was hacked. Sean Vreeland was a disabled Army veteran. After he died of a heart attack in 2022, scammers took over his account, using it to pitch yet another cryptocurrency scam.
My brother was a hardworking man. He was honest. He was a veteran, and he really deserves to rest with a clean name and rest in peace.
Unfortunately, Vreeland and Gomez are far from alone. Earlier this year, a bipartisan group of 41 state attorneys general sent a letter to Meta, Facebook and Instagram's parent company, demanding immediate action to address what they called a dramatic and persistent spike in complaints about account takeovers and lockouts. No matter how frustrated you get, unfortunately, there's not much you can do, even if a social media platform won't take down fraudulent information. Those lengthy terms of service agreements most of us just click and accept are packed with legalese that overwhelmingly give the companies an edge if you try to sue.
We want to be able to shield people's identities from this kind of
theft that happens online.
Orlando area Representative Darren Soto is pushing for Congress to do more to regulate social media giants. In April, he introduced the SHIELD Act to give social media users more legal rights to get platforms to take down false information and potentially sue if the companies don't do it in a timely fashion.
Why is this taking so long?
Well, there's a lot of powerful interests. There's a lot of disagreement. Some politics gets in the way. It's Congress's inaction that's the biggest problem right now.
Spotlight on America contacted Meta about the rise in complaints over account takeovers. A spokesperson didn't answer our specific questions, but sent a statement saying, "We know that losing and recovering access to your online accounts can be a frustrating experience. We invest heavily in designing account security systems to help prevent account compromise in the first place." Little comfort for social media users like Sonia, whose friend ended up being scammed by the hackers out of $15,000. It wasn't until our Spotlight partner, KMPH in Fresno, contacted Facebook on Sonia's behalf that the platform finally gave her back control of her own page. For Spotlight on America, I'm Angie Moreski.
And Angie tells us the brother of veteran Sean Vreeland ended up filing suit against Facebook to get their attention. Finally, after 8 months, Vreeland says the social media giant memorialized his brother's account this April. Well, the first giant pandas to enter the U.S. in decades are here. What we've just learned about when they make their big debut when we come back. Well, we now have a debut date for one of America's newest animal imports. This panda pair set to make their public debut on August 8th at the San Diego Zoo. You're looking at the first official pictures of Yunchuan and Xingbao in their new habitat. There's only about 1,800 pandas left in the world, most of them in China. This pair arrived as part of the country's panda diplomacy outreach. For decades, China has loaned pandas out to other nations as a sign of goodwill, but these are the first to enter the United States in 2 decades, making them ultra special. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. Thank you so much for joining us and for watching, and have a wonderful weekend.